Welcome back to Free Media. I'm Robby Soave.
And I'm Amber Duke. Unsurprisingly, Democratic leaders do not want to talk about Joe Biden's health condition and whether there was a cover-up. When asked about it, Hakeem Jeffries pivoted and instead bashed Republicans for wanting to get rid of health care.
Seems to me entirely inappropriate that at this moment in time, when President Biden is dealing with a serious and aggressive form of cancer, there are Republicans who are peddling conspiracy theories and want us to look backward at a time when they actually are taking health care away from the American people. No, as House Democrats, we're going to look forward. They literally are trying to take health care away from millions of Americans at this very moment in the dead of night. And Republicans want to fan the flames of conspiracy theories at this moment? No, thank you.
But J.D. Vance, the vice president, still wants to know if Biden was actually able to do the job of running the country.
Speaking of Joe Biden, sir, do you have any thoughts on his diagnosis?
Yeah, look, I mean, first of all, of course, we wish the best for the former president's health. And, you know, it sounds pretty serious, but hopefully he makes the right recovery. Look, I will say, whether the right time to have this conversation is now or at some point in the future, we really do need to be honest about whether the former president was capable of doing the job. And that's no, you know, that you can separate the desire for him to have the right health outcome with the recognition that whether it was doctors or whether there were staffers around the former president, I don't think he was able to do a good job for the American people. And that's not politics. That's not because I disagreed with him on policy. That's because I don't think that he was in good enough health. In some ways, I blame him less than I blame the people around him. And why didn't the American people have a better sense of his health picture? Why didn't the American people have more accurate information about what he was actually dealing with? This is serious stuff. And this is the guy who carries around the nuclear football for the world's largest nuclear arsenal. This is not child's play, and we can pray for good health, but also recognize that if you're not in good enough health to do the job, you shouldn't be doing the job.
And I think it's hard to disagree with that on a strictly just, you know, straightforward basis. The details coming out in the original Sin book are really damaging. And of course, we've known some of this, hear rumors about it. There's been other reportings, including that book by Amy Parnes at The Hill, that his handlers did everything they could to make his job easier, less burdensome, to schedule calls. At times he would be more coherent, that anyway staff meetings or cabinet meetings were just so painful. But the long and short of it is that there were just people who knew. It's not, the inner circle did everything they could to keep it from, I think, cabinet officials, but even in that administration, if you had interactions with him, enough of them, you were gonna see the other Joe Biden, is what Jake Tapper describes. So when Hakeem Jeffries starts say conspiracy theories, what are you talking about? You and Chuck Schumer, even more specifically, Chuck Schumer said on TV after the Hur tapes came out, which we've now heard for ourselves, and it was worse than Robert Hur made it sound. Chuck Schumer said, I meet with him all the time, every week, several times a week. He's great. He's never been better. He's great. That was just obviously a lie.
They attacked Robert Hur as some political weapon that the Republicans were using to try to paint Biden as the senile old man. Now that we've seen the transcript and heard the tapes ourselves, that was all obviously true. And it's so beyond shameless for Hakeem Jeffries to still reject accountability for the lies that they told to the American people, to insist that there's nothing to see here, we don't need an investigation, we don't need to be having a conversation about who was actually running the country, by the way. That's really the large point in all of this, is that Joe Biden was clearly not well enough to actually be in charge of high-level decision-making. So who in the White House was doing it? Because it wasn't someone who was directly elected by the American people. And so for all of their crowing about democracy and the fascist authoritarian Trump administration, the oligarchy tour with Bernie Sanders and AOC, you all were literally running an oligarchy because the guy who was actually elected couldn't do the job.
Yeah, and then remained president for another several months. I mean, it's not like Well, their view was kind of, well, it's almost the end. We'll just, it's fine. But, well, it's not like nothing important is happening in the world. The whole foreign policy situation with the Middle East, with China, with Russia, Ukraine, these are consequential events that we need an American president to be able to answer phone calls in the middle of the night, to meet with people and be sharp. And it's not just, after listening to those her tapes, it's not just that, he said 2016 when he meant 2017. We all make that mistake. We all will get, a date messed up to some degree. But he was having trouble remembering if the Beau Biden death, which is very sad, was taking place at the end of his time as a senator, during his time as vice president, or his time as president. He was having trouble putting those together, and it was a rambling incoherence. It was like he would start to tell anecdotes. It's almost as if he thought he was speaking to like a presidential biographer who wanted colorful anecdotes about his time in Congress, and then he would start telling another anecdote. It's quintessential forgetful elderly relative. He was the president still. He was still the president. So I understand why Democrats want to talk about anything other than this, but there's just no way around it. And then to say, pivot to Republicans want to take away your health care. Actually, Trump hasn't even slamming Republicans behind closed doors. Don't say anything about changing Medicare, Medicaid. I actually don't agree with Trump. I think we do need to reform our entitle system massively. I'm sorry, it's just spending way too much money. We need reform to the system. But I don't even think Trump wants to do that.
Yeah, stop giving it to illegal immigrants, pull back the increased cap that Biden, who knows who actually did it, the cap for federal reimbursement for state programs, just unwind that. That's not cutting Medicaid, it's undoing the mistakes of the previous administration,
retirement
right?
age myself. The bottom line is we live in we're in a system now where it's just a massive transfer of wealth to much older Americans who are wealthy, and like young people can't afford to buy homes and start families and afford groceries because the entitlement system is extracting way too much value from them, in my view, and transferring
we give it to able-bodied people with no kids, with no work requirement. It's crazy. But just going back to the Biden thing real quick, when we were talking about the cancer diagnosis and how long they might have known about it if they did know about it prior to the past few months, if that oncologist is correct and he had this for a decade, let's say, it's possible that they knew about it when he was running for office the first time in 2021 or in 2020, in which case the American people had the wool pulled over their eyes and didn't have all the information that they needed to make an informed choice when voting for president, which is as much of a scandal as the fact that he wasn't running the country when he was president. And this is not the first time that the Biden administration did this. We saw the same exact pattern of behavior with Lloyd Austin, who had a surgery, was missing in action for multiple days, broke the chain of command, didn't tell anybody that he was going to be out, and they apparently didn't have anyone prepared to take up the mantle of being the defense secretary while there were all of these world wars going on around the world.
Yeah.
So this is sort of their MO, is the cover-up of people who are incompetent and incapable of doing the job.
And just, last thing on this topic, I was again reminded of why I just in general end up coming to loathe like health expert type people. I was watching some interview of I think it was on Good Morning America, of someone who is just a health expert who I think was at some point involved in the Biden campaign or the Biden White House, saying that when they were asking, well, how could this only be discovered now? Why wasn't there testing? And she was saying, well, after 75, they kind of just don't do routine screening for this anymore. And I thought she was going to say because after that age, there's no point, something's going to kill you. But actually what she was saying was after 75, it tends to spread less slowly, so we don't screen for it. I'm thinking okay, but it's Joe Biden. It's like,
yeah.
I can accept, I'm comfortable with that the President of the United States should receive better or different or more precise or more constant health care than what is generally applicable to most people, right? That's not crazy. Like,
And-
we're not all
yeah.
entitled to protection all the time, but the president should have Secret Service. He should also have better medical screening if he's an elderly man.
And they were also
That doesn't make any sense to me.
claiming, some of them were also claiming that they stopped doing the screenings after a certain age because the treatments would basically have such severe side effects that it would be difficult for someone of that age to actually recover from the disease. So it's sort of like, if you have it, like, you're kind of effed sort of thing, which is like, also, again, with the president, like, I think you would want to make...
You would still want to make an informed decision based on knowledge, wouldn't you?
Right.
I mean, then if you were in some weird situation, this is like out of a TV drama where I have some illness that I need treated, but I can't have the treatment because it would impact me as the president, and that almost sounds like a 24 plot line or something.
Yeah.
But fine, have this knowledge, please. Odd. Strange. Thanks for watching Free Media. Tonight, we'll have more of our content for you first thing tomorrow morning.